All right, Return of the Living Dead from 1985. This flick, directed by Dan O'Bannon. And Stu, I was kind of telling you the story behind this earlier today, but basically, Night of the Living Dead was co-written by George A. Romero and Jack Russo. And then I really don't know how it went down, what the legal reasons were, but they ended up agreeing to divvy it up, where Jack Russo got the rights to use the Living Dead titles, and George A. Romero got the rights to use the Dead titles. Kind of seems like Jack Russo got the better end of that deal, if you're asking me. But that's why we have these two separate franchises that both kind of in a way spin out of Night of the Living Dead, where we've got Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead from Romero, and then we get Return of the Living Dead 1, 2, and 3 that stem out of Jack Russo's original book, which was Return of the Living Dead, which was a much more straightforward sequel. There was no comedy element, there was no punks, there was no like pretty much anything you see in this movie was in that book. Dan O'Bannon, who directed this, rewrote the screenplay into what we see today, turning it into this horror comedy, kind of a 80s punk, like the most 80s feeling movie I've ever seen in my fucking life. It's this and The Lost Boys duking it out for the most 80s horror movies, at least of all time. But this, dude, I'm so excited to have introduced you to this movie. So lay it on me, brother. What did you think, and what did you guys in the chat think of Return of the Living Dead?
Oh man, I loved it. I loved it so much. It was such a fun ride, start to finish. Well written, well paced, great over dramatic character actors. Like it was cheesy and corny in all the right places. Watching it now for the first time, like you could see every scene that went by, I was like, oh, I completely understand why this scene is a cult classic or this scene is a cult classic. You know, because just reading all about it and what it did for some of these people's careers. Yeah, Juana Man, Chill. I was the same way. I was like, at first, I was like, is that Juana Man? And it must have been hot as shit where they were filming. In that graveyard, they were sweating like hell. It was amazing. Thank you for this one, honestly.
I'm so glad, because this is up there with The Blob for like my favorite 80s movies. There's something like perfectly corny and fun. It's just like they knew how to have fun. And this is another thing. I say the same thing about Zombie. I don't think anyone's ever really topped those zombies in Zombie. And I don't know if anyone has ever matched the tone this well in a horror comedy to have. Like, I'm not saying it's scary. Like, it's not a scary movie, but the threat is real. Once the zombies are introduced, there is a threat that never leaves the whole entire movie.
Dude, the first time he jumps on the radio and is like, 10 more paramedics. So I was like, oh shit. Right. Like, it was such a great twist, man. That was when those paramedics are first trying to get away, the speed in which Homeboy opens the door and gets inside, like, yeah, they're a different breed for sure. So
right. And that's another thing is like, I wouldn't have realized it. I hear people all the time credit 28 Days Later for giving us fast zombies. It's like, no, these zombies are cruising, dude. You see that one paramedic get tackled? At one point, they come out and fucking take him down like a linebacker, dude. It's fucking badass.
Got laid out, dude. They were ordering them up like pizza, man. And they ran through the blockade, like the police roadblock. They had no time running through that. So yeah, definitely a full on threat,
man. Right, hell yeah. Okay, so let's get into it this way. I figure this one I do want to get a little bit. We kind of blasted through Zombie. We're going to get a little bit more in depth on Return of the Living Dead because it's a little bit more in depth of a flick. What up, E? Thanks for stopping in, brother.
What up, bro?
So let's go ahead and get into it this way, man. We'll start out with the way that the movie starts out. Like the performance, his name is James Karen. Did you recognize that this is the same dude that we saw a few weeks ago in Poltergeist?
Son of a bitch, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstone.
Real estate company.
I did not put that together, no.
It's because he's a completely different dude in this. He's setting the tone for the movie perfectly. And then Freddy, who's with him, who's played by the same guy that plays Tommy Jarvis in Friday the 13th, Part 6, he's kind of impersonating what James Karen's doing the whole time. They're on that same level. Their boss, Bert, who they call, he is this actor that I should know his name, but he was a pretty prominent guy. He's like a well-respected actor that came into this movie, and he's playing a completely different style. He's playing it straight, and you've got these two just hamming it up, and the way that it collides, like, is so fucking perfect. The intro to this story, like when he's sitting down telling them like about what's going on in the basement.
Yeah.
It sucks me in. Like he's whispering and I'm leaning forward. It's like, I don't know. There's something about the way that he tells that story.
And then he's like, you want to see him? And I was like, oh shit, you mean they're there? Like, because he was talking about it in the past tense, I swear. And then you find out they're down there, and it's like the barrels, man. The barrels are so insidious, right? And then it just fucking cracked me up. He's like, "Of course not. These things are built by the U.S."
I know.
He slaps the shit out of it.
Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no. These things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
You know what I love about that too is, first of all, the slow motion that it goes into. It's kind of corny and it's kind of the age, but it does kind of give you that horror element. But then the way, and they continue this throughout the movie, it follows like the virus or whatever it is, the thing that turns people into zombies. It follows it up through the ducts.
Yeah.
Then later on, when they burn the bodies, you see it do the same thing where it goes up into the rain, and they continuously follow it throughout the film. It's fucking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to tell that, I loved how they did it at the beginning with the opening credits, and you see like the one that they had up on the hook is just like starts like in the bag. That was just like, yeah, dude, so well done. Like you were saying also, like earlier when they burn the body, or later rather, when they burn the body and it goes up in the smoke. I love the music that goes with it,
Yes.
the soundtrack then, and then like the acid rain. How that's, and like how they kind of use that as a recurring theme later in the movie to kind of set up the rest of the franchise I thought that was so cool.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I'm like, yeah, I'm so in love with the storytelling of it and the way that it unfolds. It's so organic. Like
It is.
like I feel like the first time I watched the movie, I wasn't like giving it the proper respect. I wasn't like fully locked in on the flick. I was just kind of like, oh, I threw it on and I was just kind of watching it. On a rewatch, I was like, just the way that they tie the punks together with the older part of the cast, the more seasoned section of the cast. I don't know. It unfolds very naturally to me. I wanted to get into the part where they're turning into zombies, where we've got Frank and Freddy turn into zombies. Because to me, that is like the most horrifying and the most real, like, oh my God, like this is kind of not being so funny at the moment.
Are you talking about the pair that got gassed?
Yeah,
dude, it was brutal, especially when it reached the kind of the height of it when they were locked in the chapel and they were just like screaming in utter pain, and that poor girl decided to stay with her man in there.
Live.
Definitely the wrong decision, but yeah, that was
she made a few bad decisions that night.
But yeah, I love how they kind of like they wake up from the gas, dude's terrified. Like I especially love when he was beating the half dog.
It's my favorite part. It's probably my favorite part of the whole fucking movie, dude. It's so good.
That was so funny, and how the sounds, like the sound effects there were so perfect.
Their reactions afterwards, like when they're like with the two of them kind of running to the office, like, what are we gonna do? I don't know. He's like, boy, if you like this job. It's so wacky and over the top. The punks. Let's get into the punks a little bit, man.
Oh man.
These are not the greatest of actors. This is where it's kind of a swap. We've got our A team over here, the ones we started with. And I think almost all these guys are terrific actors. I think almost everybody besides the Puerto Rican guy that's playing a black guy are pretty shitty actors, which is funny. I didn't know that till watching the commentary. Like, this guy is actually Puerto Rican, but black was in at the time, so we went that route.
Dude, I was looking for his name. Like before the show started. It's Miguel Nunez. Yeah. I was like, what?
He's in a Friday the 13th movie. He dies in a shitter at one point.
Oh, really?
In one of the Friday movies. What I was gonna say is they're pretty much the amateur almost actors. Some of them are actors, and then one of them is literally just a stripper, not the one that gets naked. Another one is just like Dan O'Bannon's favorite stripper from the strip club that he talked into coming and being.
Homegirl that got naked had a relationship with somebody on that.
She probably had a relationship with a lot of people. That is Linnea Quigley.
Yeah,
who's like an 80s scream queen. She's in Demon Knight. She's in a bunch of shit, and she's kind of we'll say it like this. She plays a bit of a slut in everything that she's ever been in. Not that she is, but she plays characters that are promiscuous. Fair enough. You guys in the chat and you, man, what do you think? What do you think of the punks, man?
It was hilarious. I read somewhere that they had like 2 weeks before shooting to hang out and get acquainted, and I thought that really came off their camaraderie and their, like, despite them being a complete oddball bunch, and like if you saw that group walking down the street, you'd be like, what in the fuck is like, who put these guys together? But
I wonder how much they would have stuck out in 1985. I feel like they
You're right.
almost would have stuck out as much as they do now, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. They might have not stuck out at all. Who knows? But yeah, I just love from the from the jump, like their introduction when they're walking down the street and they're like, "Have you ever thought about death during sex or sex
Did you ever
during
think about
death?"
dying? It's so stupid.
It was. It's hilarious though. A very believable premise. Like, hey, we're waiting for our homeboy to get off work. Let's go fucking raise hell in the cemetery for an hour or two.
Right.
And the hijinks that ensued were great. Getting to know each one of them in their own little moment for the most part was great and hilarious.
Hell yeah, dude. I can't get over their look together too. It's like there's something about that the first time you see him, and it's like the five of them walking in a row.
Yeah.
I want to like dress like that. I want me and my buddies to dress like that. Like we should be dressed like that right now, dude. Like why aren't we? The car that they're driving around in is so perfect. It's so fitting.
Right. It is.
There's a lot of good shots where they've got the camera angled perfectly to just line up all their heads in the car that fill the frame. And I just love anytime that they do that. The half zombie, the one that comes in and is explaining like brains. I'm in pain if I don't eat brains.
Yes, dude. And like, how many like you talk about an influential scene? Like, how many of those have we seen? Like those.
Oh yeah,
those those half decayed zombies that are hilarious and talk back and give you lip or something like that. I felt like that was a first up right there. And
I thought you were gonna go with it. It's just the brains. Like when I was
a kid,
for
sure, but just like
I remember being very young and I'd never seen this movie and saying brains like this. This started brains. This is why zombies say brains. It's the only fucking thing zombies say. You know what I mean? They never said anything in The Walking Dead.
I like the brains coming out of the homeboy who escaped out of one of the tanks or whatever. God, he looked fantastic. The look on that guy.
Yeah, Tarman.
Dude, the look on that is so incredible, man. It's so perfect. It's everything you could want.
And like the way that he's walking.
And he moves, his movements.
Dan O'Bannon, this is one thing, like he said, and as he's saying, I'm like, did you really, or did this actor just do this on his own? He says he told the actor to walk as if his spine was slipping off of itself. So he's doing that. But he's definitely got a unique his walk and his look. One of the few kills that you get early in the movie. It's actually like 45 minutes in by the time we get the first kill. When he bites the big punk in the brains and rips his head open and starts eating him, shit's the shit, son.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
But this is what I wanted to say about the half zombie, talking about if the zombies don't eat brains, they're in this like crazy pain. Dan O'Bannon had Crohn's disease. I'm not super familiar with that, but I guess it causes you to be in a lot of pain. And he's talking about it in the commentary. Like 2 years prior to making this movie, he was in like terrible agonizing pain for like a year, pretty much. So that's why, like, that is what inspired him to put that into the flick. And I just thought that was cool as shit.
Yeah. That is cool. I always thought it had some insidious military, like that was the ambition of the chemical, was to like make, and like they specifically wanted to, like, it made people specifically want to eat brains to take out the enemy, or you know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of like where I thought they were going with it, because I don't know. It started with the military and kind of ends with them in a way.
Hell yeah, man. Okay, so we've touched on the punks, we've touched on our people in the mortuary. What about the zombies themselves? We kind of touched on them a little bit too. They're fast as fuck. They like to eat brains. Do you have anything else? Any just good zombie moments or comments on the zombies themselves?
No, I just like the ruthless horde in this one. But like in Fulci Zombie, we get like kind of like some single malicious, like thought out kills, kind of like, with the eyeball and the like. But here it's just like, dude, I love the scene where homeboy is dressed as a policeman and is line up all the police cars, and then they all get out and they just get bum rushed. Like, that was just so good. I love like I said, with the first time they hopped on the radio, I thought it was a game changer. I love how they're kind of like a one step ahead here, and like, I don't know.
Even the way they're like planning stuff out too, like the moment where the one paramedic goes out to his car and he turns on the lights and they're all like standing in front of the car, which is
Yes.
super
What a
fucking
great
creepy.
shot.
That's one of like the more creepy moments of the film. Then he gets out and he gets attacked from the other side. They all come get him. Like they're also the way that Tarman's got like he's working with tools and cranks and levers and
Right?
shit, pulling old girl out of that locker. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the same year that this came out, George Romero put out Day of the Dead, 1985. And one of the big things that he's doing in that movie is the zombies are becoming intelligent. They're like evolving and getting a little bit smarter. So this is another thing where I think most people credit that idea to Romero. But again, this movie did it in the same year. So I don't know who you would credit that. But I mean, I'm saying credit them with that, but it's not like anybody has really taken the ball and ran with that. That's not something we really see outside of this movie and some of Romero's movies.
Dude, it's so well done in that it's scary and funny and doing a good job at both, like at the same time. I think it's so well done in that way.
You know what's the perfect like encapsulates that to me is when the guy that his job is the guy that's been looking for these tanks, the military dude or the government official that's been in charge of tracking down these tanks, and he gets the call. And he's getting the call, and it's so dire what they're talking about. It's going to end up leading to the town being nuked and all of the cast being killed and all these innocent people being killed. But there's just something really comedic about the way that he's having the conversation, and the music is really dramatic, and his wife is in the background, and she's like freaking out. And it's just like, what the fuck tone is this? But I don't know what it is, but I love it. It's like,
I love his introduction too, where he comes in like, "What's for dinner? Lamb chops. I had that for lunch." Like he's just a grumpy son of a bitch.
How was your day? It was terrible.
Yes,
it's fucking awful. Let me ask you this, because I love when movies do this. Did you forget about him? Like by the time he showed up at the end of the movie, were you like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that this is how the movie started"?
No, not completely.
I do every time.
I don't know. It's just like he's going to come back into the fold at some point with the advanced equipment, military equipment in his house, and the army connections or whatever. I thought the 1-800 line was going to go. I mean, it did go directly to him, but I thought it was going to be something, and he was going to affect some rescue. But obviously that's
right.
But I kind of like how, in the same way they did that in the Blob, though they kind of brought the government in as the bad guy, and
that's
kind of the
80s. That's like every 80s movie.
Yeah, right. And the one with blood on their hands and kind of just made the problem worse in the end.
Hell yeah, brother. All right. You guys down in the chat, let's hear your final grades on Return of the Living Dead. Stu, lay it on me. Final thoughts and your grade for this cult classic.
Such a great one. Definitely an A for me. Well written, well paced, hilarious, scary. Just full of surprises. Really well done. So definitely an A for me.
I'm gonna go just above you. I'm gonna go right there with my buddy Tukan. I got him, man. Just because I was sitting there, I gave the Blob an A+. I was like blown away by that in Horror Fest. And I think what the Blob does, as far as the tone that we're talking about, the practical effects, this movie I think does it even a little bit better. It's got the music on top of it. It's as fun as the Blob is. I think this movie's even more fun. And it might even be a little bit more scary and a little bit fucking cooler looking. So if I'm giving the Blob an A+, I'm going to give Return of the Living Dead an A+ as well. So,